Boop. Okay. Well, welcome back to the stream, and especially if any new people come in here, cool, cool beans. Okay, so yesterday I started on it's the Zanzibar story beat. So basically, okay, so at this point in the story, like, okay, we got a bunch of different characters, and right now this concerns the villains. And Zanzibar, he's already gone into the lands. If you don't know the story, the backstory, he's a con artist and he's also a magician. And I mean, a regular magician like you'd see, that does magic tricks, you know, in real life. And so he was in Vegas and he was trying to escape Vegas police because he's also a con artist. He's a cut purse, thief. And I say cut purse because that's applicable to Enchanted Lands, not necessarily to our world, where women have purses and men have wallets and whatever. But it's still the same deal. Zanzibar the Great has this show, and he's actually really pretty good. And while he's doing that, he's got a pet crow, that does kind of his dirty work for him, that manages to pick people's pockets and stuff without being seen. Very, very smart crow. And so they eventually get caught, though. And he's running from the police on foot. And so he goes down the Las Vegas Strip. And I decided to go ahead and not use like real stuff because I don't know how copyrights and stuff work. And so I have these fictional hotel slash convention center deals, where actual wizards from Enchanted Lands are actually having a wizards convention, and it's just getting over with. And so he manages to sneak into either one of the two competing hotels where the convention's going on, or a bar that sits in the middle of them, a small bar where some of the wizards just go to kind of relax or whatever. It's a really small bar, and so he manages to get into Enchanted Lands by pretending to be one of the wizards, one of the traveling wizards. And then he gets into Enchanted Lands, and he realizes that they don't know him here, and that he's not being chased by anybody. And so he decides he's gonna see if he can run the scams down here. In fact, maybe a little bit easier down here because they actually have real magic. Well, maybe he doesn't know that right at the first, but maybe he's just thinking, a new place to start doing that. So he starts doing shows, and Corbin starts stealing, valuables, gold, whatever. And Max, who runs Enchanted Lands now after he's bought it, he's actually the main villain. He attends one of the shows, and as he's going back to the castle, or wherever he's going, I don't know. I haven't really. The certain details I haven't, I don't really think about because I always think of them as kind of unimportant. But he catches on that he's been taken, and so he goes back to search for Zanzibar to try to confront him, maybe to punish him, maybe to throw him in the mines or whatever. And later on, he tracks him down. He catches up to him, and then he kind of likes the audacity, and then uh, of what he's doing, and he offers him a deal. Um, he offers to help him with his shows. In fact, put on bigger and bigger shows if Zanzibar would actually do a little tax collection in each of the towns that he came in. And so he agrees because he doesn't want the punishment. What? I know what's missing. My Bluetooth icon is missing. That's weird. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Yeah. So now he's working for Max. Okay. And of course, Max does have other nefarious plans, which will be revealed later. Or if you've already watched some of my stuff or listened to some of the story, you probably already know what's going on. But I'll reveal it later. And so yeah, that's where we are, and that's where we're gonna start today. So without further ado, actually, I should have this all set up ahead of time so that I can just, I'm really bad at that. I'm really bad at setting things up ahead of time and having everything ready, So hold on, I'm just pulling up Redot, and we're gonna switch to desktop, and there we are. So, and by the way, if you were here yesterday and you were talking in the chat in either the YouTube or the Rumble, I don't think anybody was talking in Rumble, but in YouTube chat, there were plenty of people talking, and I thought I was on that window, and apparently I was not, because uh, when I was about ready to go, I switched to it, and then saw this conversation. I was like, oh crap. Anyways, let's go away from the scripting, because that's not until there. Okay, so we have Random Village's ground and Max Flying Train over here, and I haven't really decided what path he's squirting stuff all over myself now, because I'm Bumblefingers sometimes, Butterfingers. Okay, so let's pull this up first, and let's see. Zanzibar does some more shows in some other villages. I'm gonna have to start actually creating the specific villages, and also, having them on the map. And I'm gonna have to start making actual individual locations. Just start adding locations, because I'm gonna have to go through the other locations. I mean, I could just do what I'm doing until I'm done, and then go back through and then redo all the renaming and the relocationing and all that stuff, which might be what I should do. But we'll see. I guess we'll see. Yeah, and like I said, this is take forever. I keep on asking the AIs about some ideas for making it easy, quicker, and I'm hearing the same kind of stuff. Don't focus on things, just go and do the main things and whatever. I'm gonna try to do that at least. Actually, originally when I first started these, I was doing at least one a day, and it was fine, and I didn't have any problem. But later on, I don't know. I just started thinking of the logical inconsistencies. It's like it's like the Princess Prep situation. I don't know if you watched that or looked at that. But if you were here, or if you watch it on one of the videos, or if you're watching this later, so basically, he has to get in. One of our protagonists, John, he has to get into Princess Prep. It's all boarded up, and he can't get in either the front door or the back window. Actually, it probably should be a back door too, but I was just limiting it because I wasn't thinking of a back door. There might be a back door, and later maybe you'll get the choice to look at it because it'd be barred on both ends. But anyways, so the back window and the front door, and you have to get a pry bar to pry the boards off, so before you can actually even get into the school. So so I think about that, and then I went, okay, so we got the pry bar. Why wouldn't you just go back to the front door? Why would you even go to the window? Why don't you go to the front door and try to open it? Well, that's a very good question, and you would try it at least. So I had to come up with a logical way that you still couldn't go in the front door, and I figured, well, you can't put anything in front of it because I have to use that later. The princess actually goes up. She doesn't actually go in though, so I mean, I could have done that, but she goes up to the door and finds a message, and that's the later part of the story. But so I was going, okay, so he's gonna try to break in using the pry bar into the front door. So what ways can I stop him? Well, you can have that standard the lock bar. I don't know what you call it, whatever, the lock bar that you put behind. You've seen in those old movies with castles and stuff, medieval time kind of thing, where they have the big wooden doors, and you put this wooden bar in in like a holder or whatever, so that nobody can push in onto the door. And I thought of that. I thought of a portcullis type of situation over the front door, built more like a castle. And I went, well, I mean, you'd have to. There's a note that gets pinned there, and so you'd have to do it. Either you'd have to do it where the holes or the grating or whatever in the portcullis kind of thing, that you could see the message pinned, or you'd have to see it tacked up to like maybe the door frame, or whatever. And I was thinking, well, I guess the best way to do it would be probably to have the bar from the inside, and then later kind of explain it too. Because when you're outside and you're trying to pry the door open and it just doesn't budge, you don't know why. You go back inside, maybe it's locked inside, maybe it has the bar, like I said, maybe somebody tells them. And so it's like all these little details I have to keep thinking of. So I so I was just doing this minutia, and whenever I popped up something, there's this logical thing. The other thing is like magic and how it works, and you know, you have to you have to put up obstacles, and so, like for instance, the Wizard University had these these magical wards, and you couldn't like teleport in, like you couldn't teleport in or make open a portal or whatever. Um, but you could get in physically, and you end up doing that by shrinking yourself down. But I had to think of all that. I had to think of, well, what would they do? How does the magic work? You know, uh, why was okay? So in the trophy room, there is a scepter that was stolen, and the scepter is supposed to be a trophy, which later I might actually turn into something like legit, like a legit reason for it to be stolen. But the idea here was that it was a proof of concept for this device that Max has made, and and then I had to come up with, well, what does the device do? What causes it to being able to open a portal like you could the normal way? The normal way is usually you have a piece of Quicksilver and you have an intent, and then you state where you want to go, and essentially like magic words. So you say where you want to go, and a portal opens up to that location. And Max found a way of not needing the Quicksilver. However, however, he's also building a giant machine that allows him to open multiple portals to multiple realms all at the same time and large enough to march armies through. So, he still needs Quicksilver to amplify it. He doesn't need Quicksilver necessarily for the initial opening, but to produce a big enough opening and enough of the openings, he needs an amplification source, like a magical amplification source, and that would be the Quicksilver. So then I thought in my head, and I was like, okay, so how does this work? How is he able to create a device when you could just do magic or whatever? Why can't you do the magic or whatever? And um, usually the magic works on your intent and where you want to go, and it's a portal just large enough for you to walk through. And so there's a lot of little caveats to opening portals with Quicksilver, right? And I said, then I came up with the kind of like the science of magic, sort of thing, where basically it shows you how the magic kind of works, like portal magic works. So it's an intention, like I said, and so what it does is the the Quicksilver amplifies the frequency, your brain frequency of where you want to go, and so your frequency aligns, and then that is what opens the portal. So you're thinking of a place, it has a certain frequency that the portal will open up to that certain location, and the Quicksilver and your intention directs that to where you want to go. And so I figured that, well, the machine itself is going to do the same thing, and you're able to dial in the correct frequency to actually open a portal. And so as proof of concept, he gets into the school. Now he's the one that sealed up the school, so he doesn't really need to break into it per se. But the to get the scepter out of the trophy case, without tripping the words, he has to do something different. So he uses a little machine that opens a portal, a small enough portal, just for him to reach his hand in and pull the scepter out of the glass trophy case. And that's what he does, and then he leaves. Okay, and then I have this whole thing of um see, there's only two people here or whatever, two viewers, with two of which may be myself, but anyways, if you're seeing this in the future. Okay, so I also came up with a deal about, okay, so the way it works, the way you get to go to Enchanted Lands is you have a um, you go to something like a travel agent. So you're super ridiculously wealthy, and it's only by word of mouth, and it's very exclusive. And you go to sort of travel agent, and uh, when you hear about this place, you say you want to get tickets, and um, then you pay them this ridiculous amount of money, and then a short time later, you get the tickets at wherever you're located at. It could be anywhere, it could be your home, it could be your office, whatever. Um, because the magic postal service, you might say, magical ticketing system, the special mailboxes that will teleport the tickets to the location. So, um, so we had a couple of different ways to get tickets to them, and one was originally was that he found one in a candy bar, because I guess I thought of it because of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or whatever, where the wizard Hubert, which is are also one of our main protagonists. He's actually searching. He's actually using someone from our realm to help him out, figure out what's going on in Enchanted Lands, and so he hides a quicksilver ticket in a candy bar of John's favorite candy bar, the Benny Wonky bar, or the Wonky bar. You know, you know, like Willy Wonka, but it's just my little like Easter egg joke, whatever, in joke. The Benny Wonky Candy Company, and this happens to be his favorite deal. And there's a Quicksilver ticket inside when he gets this deal. But there's also a different way he can actually get tickets, and that's by using the magic ticketing system. Well, the ticketing system. How did I say that? No, the mailbox, the magic mailbox, is what gets it into the candy bar wrapper. But the other way he could do it with spells, but because Hubert's compromised, his magic is compromised. Um, there's two ways of doing it. Either you take the time for the magical post to get to you, or you can do it instantly with spells. But because he can't do his spells, end up only going about halfway or part way, you have to combine a couple of deals. So this just I'm just telling you this because these are all the details I have to think of. That like I came up with the plot line, right, and I came up with the character arcs of each of them. The princess, she's given her speech, and she comes in and she gets kidnapped. John is from our realm, and he's brought in. He's actually brought in by Hubert the Wizard, which is the king's chief advisor and his best friend. And the king's been acting weird, and he sold Enchanted Lands to this guy named Maximilian's, and they don't know what's going on with that, and so he has to get somebody from our realm. So, why was I saying that? Anyways, I have to think of like, oh yeah, like the main storyline. So the main storyline is like that, like John's storyline, his plot arc. Ever since he enters the lands, he wants to get a date with the princess, and because he saw her that first time, he ended up on the flying train. Yeah, I have flying trains in here, and normally when you go to take a vacation in Enchanted Lands, the portal always opens into a flying train. There's always ones flying around. But now they're more or less not being used for passengers because there's not many people coming in because there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of things closed down and whatever. And so I have his main storyline. Her main storyline was basically just to give a speech, and she gets kidnapped. Hebert wants to learn what's going on with Enchanted Lands. Why is everything closed down? Why are things happening bad? Why are people disappearing? Uh, there's a whole bunch of questions, and so he brings in John, and John helps him. He sends John to Princess Prep and Night School, and Night School spelled Knight school. I did little take. I used to call it Knights Academy, and then I thought, you know what, it'd be a little bit more punnier if I called it Night School with the K. And um, John is going over there. Hubert's going to go over to Wizard University and Fairy God College. And so I have his deal. I have a vampire, which they're misunderstood. They're not like our vampires. They don't suck blood. They do live a really, really long time. And the reason that they get the reputation for drinking blood is because there's a special berry that they like to make wine out of, and it looks like blood, but it's not blood. It's just juice from a particular berry that they call the bloodberry because it looks like blood. I have all these things. It's a comedy, so it can be goofy and whatever. So I have him. I have Roland the oversized dwarf, whose dad was a dwarf. No, his dad was a giant, and his mom was a dwarf. And don't ask me how they had a kid, but they did. And he's searching for his dad. He's actually, even though he's taller than most adult males, he is virtually a child. 10 to 13 years of age, but he's like super big. And so you have Roland the oversized dwarf, and who else? We have Chester the dragon, he's actually a good guy. In fact, most of the dragons are actually really good, uh, until they were enchanted to be evil. And then of course I got a bunch of number of villains. You got Maximilian Spell, who's an evil sorcerer who was banished years before, and somehow he snuck back in the land. We have Violet Moonshadow as kind of his right hand woman, and she does kind of a lot of the stuff. She assembles the armies and stuff. We have Scarlet Clover, nicknamed Red. Essentially, it's Red Riding Hood, but because I don't have any more actual like fairy tale characters from actual fairy tales, I decided that I needed to give her a proper name, and her nickname is Red. And she wears a hood, so technically she's Red Riding Hood. But but I don't say it anywhere. But anyways, Red, and she and Granny had a scam where they would get werewolf pelts by luring them in with a promise of being eaten. Being the innocent, and going to Grandma's house and giving her goodies, and then Granny would be home waiting to kill them and to take their fur, basically. And it was a pretty good scam until Granny got eaten. And there's actually a little story in there too. I believe, if I remember right, because I don't have it in front of me right now. That was an on purpose thing. Somebody did that. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't on purpose. Maybe not. I was thinking that somebody had actually set that up and made that happen instead of it just happening because they got mad. But in any case, Red's in hiding because Granny got eaten, and um, she isn't in hiding necessarily because she's scared. She's in hiding because she's trying to solve the mystery of who ate grandma, and she comes out of hiding. Max calls her out of hiding. Max had a thing for Red, and Violet was always her rival. She was always jealous of Violet, and now Violet is with Max, but then Max brings her out of hiding, brings Red out of hiding, and then um, to helpfully recruit a number of werewolves to join his armies, his already expanding armies. So like I have a bunch of stuff. Cryptooth the Dragon. Actually, I have Kurt. Kurt was I had a funny idea called Kurt the Cowardly Werewolf, and I thought it'd be funny, and it probably would have been funny. But I was realizing I was having too many good guys, and how do I do that? Not enough good guys, and more bad guys than good guys. And you can't really have that because then you don't have an underdog type of thing. You don't have that deal that they have to work against the bad guys. If your villains outnumber your heroes, then your villains can probably easily take them. That isn't necessarily the case, but the perceived deal is that um, uh, that um, the whole underdog thing. I was how is it going? I had too many heroes, had too many protagonists, right? Too many heroes, too many good guys. Kurt was actually kind of a good guy. He was sympathetic. He was he had been bit by a wolf, and what happened to him is that whereas it turned everybody into vicious wolves that go and hunt people and whatever. His turned the opposite way, so it made him super cringy, super scared at everything. So whenever he turns into a werewolf, he's this scaredy cat. And I was gonna have him. He was gonna actually help turn some of the werewolves to the good guys. And I realized, well, there's too many good guys. So if you have too many good guys, uh, then you more good guys than you have bad guys. Then you don't have this sort of underdog thing. You don't have a challenge really because the good guys could just wipe them out, right? If you have too many good guys and not enough bad guys, then that could happen. So I was saying I at least need to make them at least equal, because if at least equal, then they can put up a fight. So then I decided I would turn Kurt into a bad guy, full bad guy, and not have anything to do with the cowardly werewolf thing. Cowardly werewolf thing still would have been funny though, but it's not in there. And now he's like a third in command to the leader of the wolf pack. His name is Rottweiler, and yeah, I realize it's a little cliche, I guess, a little unimaginative, but until I come up with a better name, he's going to be called Rottweiler. So, so Kurt is actually third in command, or second in command, and he wants to become leader of the pack. So eventually he makes a deal with Violet Moonshadow, and so on and so forth. So I have all these characters. I got all the main storylines, okay, and so now I need to branch each story beat. Like I got all the story beats down. I wrote the story beats. Everything's down. The main plot outline, everything is in there. And then now I have to go from story beat to story beat and put in interesting decisions and choices in between. And this is where I have to come up with everything, because I don't have an idea. I had an overarching idea for the whole plot line. I have some various ideas that keep popping up that I always keep putting in my notes. But so this is why it takes so long, because I have to think about chronology. I have to think about what kind of stuff fits. It's not going to be a regular high-rise, office building in Enchanted Lands. Not that there couldn't be because it's modern times, but that there shouldn't be because it makes it incongruent. It's sort of like a medieval kingdom, even though they have a lot of the modern conveniences with using Quicksilver, and it's a tourist resort. But so I have to think of that. I have to come up with everything. I have to come up with ancillary characters. I like to try to tie things back to things. Okay. So there's one part. Roland approaches the dwarf mines because he's been kicked out. He's been kicked out because he's too big, he's clumsy, and really he's just a kid, even though he's huge. But so So he comes up one last time, and he's still trying to search for his dad. And I guess he found out his dad is somewhere in the mines too, even though his dad's a giant. Uh, so he goes up there, and a dwarf, a grizzled dwarf, comes out and collapses. And so when John is entering the land, I kind of I said, I want to, maybe I could tie this back to the dwarf there, and maybe I could introduce him as a character here, so that it has a little bit of legitimacy. Maybe I could add to some of the lore, some of the backstory, some of the support for the story. And so I came up with this idea okay, so Max is building this Omni Gate, and in secret, and um, if you work at the castle, so here's the deal: if you work at the castle, you have two jobs. One is your regular castle job. So you're a butler, you're a cook, you're a cleaner of some sort, like a janitor or something. Um, whatever needs to be done in a regular castle setting, with the king and people that are in there. You have that job, but you also have the job of running the resort. And so, uh, this one girl that's a maid in that's actually a maid in the castle, but she's also with what did I say? With it's like plans. It's like research and development, I think is what I put it. So she works in research and development, like filing blueprints and stuff. She comes across a blueprint for this machine, this mysterious machine. She doesn't know what it is, what it does, and she figures that maybe she should get that to Hubert, which is the King's chief advisor again. He's our main wizard. He's a good guy. So she has her boyfriend, which is this dwarf, go uh, and attempt to take it to Hubert. And this dwarf also so happens to be on the flying train that when John comes in, he happens to be on there when it crashes, and um, he actually gets taken away and put in the mines because they actually catch up to him. So I do this little thing where I had this deal about this dwarf coming out, probably old, probably just tired and undernourished and worked to death, basically. And he tells Roland that his dad is trapped inside the mines, inside the Gnome Kingdom. And then I said, you know what? I'll make this. Um, I'll give him a part, and he'll be this dwarf that takes these plans that is taking him to Hubert. But he gets taken before he's able to pass them on to Hubert. So I have this little foreshadowing deal that'll talk about the plans, and I also thought of it as a little homage to Star Wars, right? The Death Star plans, a little MacGuffin kind of thing. Anyways, eventually, uh, so the Enchanted Guard, which is the essentially the military, the army, Enchanted Land's army, basically. The Enchanted Guard, they capture this dwarf. They take the plans away, and then John actually meets him and was actually catching up to him, but he was so the dwarf gets taken away, and then he meets up with Hubert, and he tells Hubert. It's a little foreshadowing about what's going on, a little bit of hint. So now why was I saying that? I was saying that because um, oh yeah, I was saying that because this is how I work. This is how I add things. I have to come up with things. I have an idea, and this is for story games. For like arcade games and stuff, I don't need to do this much in depth, right? But this is a story based game, and to do that, I have to come up with stuff. But I usually come up with the main story, the main plot, and I think about sometimes I think about their character arcs and whatever. And let's see something here. Uh, am I still? Yeah, I guess I am. Okay, making sure I was still here and everything was working. Anyways, um, so So I don't have I have the basically like your screenplay, your plot outline or whatever when you're developing scenes. This would be akin to developing scenes in a movie, for instance, or developing a storyboard in a cartoon or game, but in cartoon, right? Um, so in between times, in between the actual story beats that I wrote down in the outline, I have to come up with interesting decisions. I have to figure, how do they get from point A to point B, and this takes a heck of a lot of time. So, uh, anyways, I guess I should get started. We only have two people here in the chat now. One, now it's down to one, which is, I mean, okay, I guess, but whatever, whatever. Uh, Give me a sec here. Give me a sec. Probably doesn't matter because nobody's watching. Okay, nobody's watching. All right, except for you, random one person, which I'm assuming is not me, because if it was me, if I was registering as being a watcher, there would be two. So one, there's at least one other person in here, I guess. Anyways, um, okay. I should say welcome in the chat list anyone who's in and thinks I'm still AFK. Still away. Okay. Alright. So, Max is in his flying train and he realizes that okay, hit one. If you want Max land and search for Zanzibar on foot, hit 2. If you want Max to try to follow try to search from the air. All right. Room data. Okay. So, see if I can get this, at least this side done. Okay. So, I don't know if this is a time I should be thinking about a map right now, or I'm gonna do. Let's see something here. Let me think. I could do a 3x3. You know what? I just thought of something that might be funny. Let's open the notes, shall we? Something that might be funny, and that is that Max has a portable, quote unquote, portable magic mirror on his train. And the funny thing is that portable just means two guys can carry it, and it's actually kind of big and heavy. but they have to carry it with them everywhere they go when he says. So let's go down. Let me put that in here. I don't know if maybe I should go down to the bottom. I don't even know if I'll even use that outline thing. Um, One thing that might be kind of funny, where Max carries a portable magic mirror on his train, but in reality, it requires two attendants to lug it around. So he has to drag, he has to bring two guys, two servants, to carry it for him. Okay. All right, let's get back to the deal. Okay. Okay, so he's got to go. Now here's the thing, right? I had the villages deal where Max went to a couple of random villages already, so maybe he could revisit some of the villages. I don't know. I'll have to think about how to do it, but oh, I got to think of that. Yeah, one person. There's usually at least two people, and now I have only one in here. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm saying I don't know if I'm going to continue doing the live stream. Somebody gave me some advice, and I'm sitting there in a notification there on YouTube that I'll have to look at here soon. Actually, I could look at it now. Let's see. Someone's trying to keep an eye on the actual game dev. I think I'm out of the videos. Blank the videos works against you. 99% of this content is you interacting with ChatGPT and writing a story. That is true. The main story is written, but a lot of this is writing the main parts of the story. For a viewer, that is the absolute worst way to consume a story. Maybe there's a development going on, but I don't think people want to wade through just one person's opinion. But you'd be better served finding the most interesting 10 minutes from your recording and post that every day. Don't spend hours editing those 10 minutes. For instance, they just taken the spot where you talk about building viewership, etc. I completely disagree that it has anything to do with your political views, but it was at least interesting to hear. Oh yeah, the deal that I was describing about the political views too, and you may be watching it or listening to it now or later, whatever, it doesn't matter. I was trying to say why I thought my viewership went down. I don't normally do political stuff, but I'd always put comments. I'd watch some conservative stuff or whatever, some news or whatever, and I would do comments. And I was just trying to say that back in 2019, around 2020 or whatever, um, like I had um, uh, more viewers of my videos, more views on my videos until around 2019 or 2020, and because when I or 2019 is when I started doing. That's when I did the 600 videos, and so immediately saw the drop in views, and it wasn't just like kind of. It was like pretty big. And I didn't have a lot of views. Understandably, I didn't have a ton of views, mostly in the double digits, a few in the triple digits. And when I after that certain point, after they started doing this thing to the algorithm or to the whatever, my views dropped into single digits. So I figured it had to be because maybe I was on some list. Like I figured a bunch of people were probably on a list. Not that there were anything in particular. They're not one of these commentary channels or whatever. They could just be accounts. It's like Twitter, right? It's like Twitter shadow banning people. They don't promote their tweets, right? So if you're saying something against the jab, they're not going to promote your tweet. In fact, they're going to try to bury it. And that's what I think YouTube was doing to a lot of. They were like unsubscribing people from channels. They were demoting some of their comments. They were removing some of their comments, stuff like that. I think that's what happened, and that's the only thing I was talking about, the political part of it. I wasn't even trying to say that nobody was targeting me in specifically. I was just saying I think that's what they did to their algorithm or whatever. So they biased it so that it would not promote anybody that has these views. That's what I think happened. I don't know for sure if that's what happened. It may not have happened at all. It may just be because my videos were crap and boring, and I totally get that, but. That's what I was trying to say about the political view part. I think you need to prioritize the game over the videos. If the game is good, people will be interested in the videos after the fact. Without a track record of producing games, no one wants to invest the amount of time to see this come together. And for huge channels, monetizing YouTube is getting harder and harder. If you're hoping to fund the game with YouTube money, you might want to consider a different strategy. Okay, so again, this is for anybody that would what? Why did I? Oh, I see what I did here. Um, yeah. Um, okay, so for anybody that's watching in the future, and I'll probably say it again, and you probably won't even see it because there's like nobody in here, which is fine. I mean, that happens most of the time for me, anyways. I might stop streaming though. I might stop streaming the game dev. Okay, so yes, a majority of it is me. At least in this part, the majority of it is me um, writing the story, so to speak. Um, this is the game, though, in the fact that this phase is a choose your own adventure phase. So it means I'm writing most of the story stuff. Again, it originally was supposed to be really super short, but now that I'm in about almost 20%. I don't want to stop and like restart and redo it because I've already got this much done, and I want to waste what I got done here. So, so yeah, this is probably the most boring part. Is me talking about how I'm gonna get from beat A to beat B. You know, that was the story. This is the point of trying to get into the middle of it. And as far as me making money, I wasn't thinking that YouTube itself would fund. I don't think that people. I don't think unless they're million subscriber deals that they make that much money off of YouTube ads or anything. I wasn't gonna do YouTube ads. I was hoping that like I have a Patreon and I have a Subscribe Star, and the pages aren't finished or aren't ready for prime time or whatever. They're just kind of sitting there. I need to work on it, but I don't have enough people in here that would warrant me spending time on my Patreon and stuff. Because nobody's gonna give me money at this point. I mean, but so the whole thought was that okay, since competition is so tough and so much free stuff out there, and there's so many ways to get games, and even when a good game comes out and an indie dev makes a really good game, maybe they only make a few thousand, but maybe they spent like 2 or 3 years on the game, and it's a really good game, but there's also a ton of other really good games and also a ton of crap that you have to wade through, right? So at best, you only get a couple of thousand, and that equates to like a buck an hour or something. I don't. It might not be a buck an hour. It might be less. It might be more. But what I mean is it's not really worth your time. The money you make is not really worth the time you spend on it. I mean, other than the fact that you like making your game, which is fine, and that it is actually good, and people do actually like it, which is might be reward enough for some people. But as far as monetary reward goes, they don't make that. A lot of these indies don't make up that much money, even when they're good. And some of them do okay and are surviving, and that's fine too. And so I figured, instead of doing that, instead of trying to be worried about trying to get something that I can sell, I would instead make the game I want to make, and then I would bring you all along for the ride, and then I would show everything behind the scenes because I was disappointed. I was disappointed in Double Fine Adventure, which is Broken Age, which is the Tim Schafer Kickstarter that he did. Tim Schafer is the guy that worked on Day of the Tentacle and worked at LucasArts games back in the day. Some of the Monkey Islands and you know um, various things for LucasArts back in the day, and so he did this Kickstarter to do an adventure game, and it turned out to be Broken Age, which really wasn't that great. It was okay. It wasn't like really cool and funny, and uh, didn't like it as much as the old LucasArts games, adventure games. Even their more mediocre ones like Full Throttle and The Dig weren't that mediocre. In other words, I don't. I'm not trying to disrespect those two games. If you really liked them, that's cool. I really liked them too. So I'm not saying that in that vein. I'm saying what was the most successful. Um, but I was saying even for their standards, what's mediocre for their standards was still better than a lot of the newer stuff, and definitely to me better than Broken Age. So so I was watching the documentary, and they don't show you crap behind the scenes. They show them dissing each other, joking. They show Tim Schafer like he goes back into his office, locked into his office, and pops out every so often. And then there's a review where he starts explaining some of the story. They give us a little bit clip of one scene of a storyboard of a certain part of the game, and then the rest is a little bit about making the engine, which is kind of interesting if you're a programmer. But even that wasn't that informative, and even that wasn't that that interesting. I was going, that's I expected to see more behind the scenes. Like, how did Tim Schafer come up with his ideas? What was this process? What did he think of? You know, why did he choose this thing? And then how much did he let the others have input on the story and on the kind of puzzles and things? Was it all Tim, or was it more collaborative? Where they get the input other than just the engine, right? And not that I have a problem with them including everyone or including no one. I just wanted to know what he did, and I wasn't getting that. So the documentary was really kind of a waste of time to watch. I mean, you might like the documentary, the behind the scenes deals, and that's fine. Individually, they're okay, and they're kind of funny at sometimes because they start calling each other names and cursing and swearing and whatever, and it's funny, but none of it was satisfying. It wasn't like, ooh, I'm seeing this thing come together. You don't see the game come together. Presumably, if you're a fan, you buy the game, you play the game, then you watch the documentary behind the scenes stuff, just in case there are any spoilers. There isn't any spoilers in there, which I understand it. You don't want spoilers to come out before people have a chance to play, etc. and so forth. But presumably, the super fans, the ones that actually put money into the Kickstarter, are going to be the ones that are going to be interested no matter what. They will care as much about spoilers. And if they do care a lot about spoilers, they will not watch it until after they play the game. That's the other thing, you know? So I was kind of pretty disappointed. So when I started working on this, I'm going to go in, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show everything. I'm going to show spoilers. I'm going to show you how I come up with things. I'm going to show you the processes I use, what I do, how I do it. And You know, and even that, I realized that even the best fan, even if I had the most compelling stuff that anybody would watch, and I had tons of subscribers and stuff, not everybody would see every streaming episode, would not see everything, so they wouldn't know everything about the game. In other words, even if I put a ton of spoilers in there, you're not going to see all the spoilers, and in fact, you are not going to see a lot of it, even if you watched all of it. It's going to be like in between. Like I'm working on this one part. You're not going to remember the next month. The story beats that I did the last month. You only remember what you thought was funny or thought was interesting, right? So so that's why I'm showing this stuff. Now, here's the thing. I get it. It's totally boring now, and you actually see me talking with ChatGPT. You see the processes. You know the process. So in reality, I could go ahead and just say, um, you know what? I'm not going to show you any more of this stuff. I'm not going to do any more of this stuff on the stream, and yeah, I'm not gonna do any more of the stuff on the stream. You'll just have to see it in the updates. You have to see it after the fact, and I'll just go ahead and I'll work on this, and then you won't see it. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, I've done this far, this 20% here, and if I stop now, um, you can't say that I showed you everything, right? And you may not need to see everything. Honestly, you probably don't. But, you know, I was doing this for a while. I'm almost to 200 Devstream videos. More if you consider that for the past month or so, I've been doing double streams. You know, half time, obviously, so it's the same amount of time, but do multiple streams. But we'll say of the 200 dev streams, you know, uh, what was I saying? Um, I was saying I did a lot of dev streams. If they suddenly stop, then people would be going, they'd be looking at Langer going, "What happened? I thought you're going to show everything." And I was just like, "Well, people weren't watching because I was, showing too much of the story stuff, and it's just not that interesting after doing it for a while." So I'm going on the one hand, I'm going, yeah, you've seen one of them, you've seen a couple of them, you've seen them all. Um, so I could quit that ways. Um, saying this is boring. A lot of people just don't like the story stuff. You know, they like hearing about the story. They like to hear me maybe tell the story. Because I'll do that in one shot. I'll rattle off everything, and that's kind of funny. But they don't like this. You know, the story part here, right? So on the so I'm thinking that I'm thinking if I quit now, it's just around the corner. It's going to pick up, right? If you continue doing something so many times that eventually you're going to get people that like watching it. Maybe maybe there's 1,000 of you out there or 100. It doesn't even matter how many. Maybe there's 100 of you out there that and you wouldn't necessarily be the one. I'm just saying maybe there's 100 people out there that once they start watching, they like to continue watching because they like to see it unfold. It's unfolding, even though it's really slow. And then I start picking up. What if I start picking up viewers that like the super slow part of it? You know, that wouldn't even like me if I sped it up. Because before I was telling everything, and they're just enthralled. You know, some people are enthralled with looking at a dictionary, encyclopedia, reading it through. You know, and I get that. Those are only kind of boring people and only certain kind of people, and that's fine. But I'm saying, what if there's a bunch of people that are like that, that eventually that would like to watch this and like to watch it through and like me to see me go through the story, you know, like this. And you know, what if it's just around the corner? I've done 200 already, and what if it only takes 50 more? What if it takes 2 or 3 more? What if it takes 10 more? What if it takes 400 more? What if it has to be almost finished before people start actually watching these through the time? I'm kind of going, well, should I stop or should I not stop? If I don't stop and I keep going, then maybe somebody's going, yeah, you keep going, Keith, and eventually people are gonna be watching it. You can't quit now. And a lot of people do this quitting thing. They go a certain amount of time. I should actually look up the statistics, how long somebody goes streaming before they quit and think it's, you know, I could ask a, really I'm supposed to be doing story right now, but considering that everybody thinks story is boring anyways, I guess it's not gonna hurt anything, right? Okay, so let's do something here. uh, on average, how many people that stream on YouTube uh, um, let's see, how should I say this? The people that stream on YouTube, how long do they last before quitting? Let's say of all the, and I'll just ask Brave Search, you know, Brave Leo, their search assistant. How long do they last before, on average, how long do they last before quitting? No specific average lifespan for YouTubers who stream, as the duration varies significantly based on individual circumstances. Many creators continue for years, some saying that they will only quit when they die, others cite personal reasons such as burnout, lack of time. That's not really what I'm looking for. One creator mentioned that quitting after a year, despite having 182,000 subscribers and making a decent living, indicating that success does not guarantee longevity. The workload is often described as massive, with significant time investment in filming, editing, content management. Some creators persist for a decade. Yeah, okay, I'm talking about streaming. Um, okay, maybe I can ask Grok. The reason I can ask Grok is because Grok will actually copy. I can actually get Grok to go out. Now, this is based on search results, so it should be able to do it, but it evidently it's not strong enough. Now, Grok might say the same thing, but it has a better chance of getting me the information I want. Of all the people that stream on YouTube, on average, how long do they last before quitting? Use any online sources. Use as many online sources as you can, including X posts, other social media, general forums, and anything else you deem relevant. Um, Keep in mind I'm talking about streaming, not regular content creation. It doesn't matter what genre, niche, or anything else for that matter. Just the average best guess estimate Okay, let's see what this says. Okay. So research on the web for general statistics. I should have said restricted to YouTube, but that's just all right. Okay, while it's doing that, let's go back to here. Um, okay, so I need to figure out how he catches up to Zanzibar. Okay, so I'm going to do a maximum of a maximum of 3 villages or 2 villages. Maybe we should keep it to 2, just to keep the number down. He can go. The first one he can go to is the one he was in previous. Actually, let's see. Visit 2 villages. Actually, he'd be going back to the scene of the crime, so that would be the first one. Um, uh, so where would he go next? Does it matter? Would he instantly find? Let's see. Would they be able to tell him what his scheduled what his scheduled villages? Um, is there multiple villages Max could go to? So it's not really linear, because he's obviously going to go back to the village that he was in. Well, I guess what I'll have to do is I'll have to do that, and then I'll have to do with where he was supposed to go, and like where he's been, kind of thing. The tri-village area. In fact, this is how I can actually get him to actually go to 3 villages, even though one he's already been to. So, and that kind of makes sense. So, we'll make something called the tri-village area, um, which is kind of a consensus area, I guess. And you know, the tri-county, tri-city, you know, tri-city area kind of thing. It's the tri-village area. Uh, let's do something here. Let's go on. Okay, here. Let's go back to here. Based on comprehensive review of available data from web searches, forums, Reddit, Quora X, Twitter posts, and related studies, primarily focused on Twitch but applicable to YouTube live streaming due to similar dynamics in the creator economy. Average lifespan of a streamer's career before quitting is approximately 12 months. Okay. All right. This is not exactly what I was looking for, and I just realized that I didn't specify. Accounts for really high early dropout rates. Over 50% quit within the first month, and around 70% by 6 months. Okay, that actually tells me what I want to know, though. Balanced against a smaller percentage, 10-20% who persist for multiple years, often 3 to 7 years for successful ones. Figures best guess mean as most quit early due to factors like burnout, lack of growth, unstable income, high competition, long-term survivors. Okay. So this draws from broader streaming trends. Okay. So 50% quit within the first month, 70% by 6 months, right? Probably including those 50%. So additional 20% within 6 months. So 50% within the first month and 70% within 6. I would presume the 50% is included in the 6-month span, which means an additional 20% within months 2 to 6. Is that a correct summation? Okay, so now, given that, let's see. Okay, so what about ones that stick it out until they become moderately successful? How long does it take them to become successful? I realize we can use many different metrics for success, and I just mean a reasonable amount of subscribers and channel and video views. Let's say over 500 subscribers and over we'll say over 500 views per video on average. Best guess estimate. Thinking about the user request. Yes. Okay. Seems likely. I'm just kind of even picking an arbitrary number, 500 subs and 500 views. I got 170, 180 something subscribers, 100 of which are probably just old ones that never ever look at my channel again. And then my views don't even get into the double digits. Well, that's not true. They get in double digits, but they don't go much past the double digits. It's always the lower double digits, I should say. 50 or less, right? I haven't had anyone reach 50 actually. Most of them are 20, 30 at one point, maybe. So yeah, I'm still the picture freeze there? The picture froze on Restream. Anyways, okay, let's go back to this real quick. Oh, what's what I was gonna look up. Try city area. do they name? Oh, Tri-City area. Let's see what pops up when I just hit search for it. Here, Tri-City is the actual thing. The term Tri-Cities often refers to several distinct metropolitan or regional areas in the United States, each centered on three major cities or towns. The most prominent is the Tri-Cities metropolitan area in southwestern Washington State, which includes cities of Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland. Yeah, I remember that because I used to live in Oregon, and we would go up to we drive up to Washington, um, Eastern Washington. So we actually drive up there occasionally just to do it. Officially known as the Kennewick, Richland, Washington Metropolitan Statistical Area, anchored by Benton and Franklin counties, and the third largest metropolitan area entirely within Washington State, with an estimated population of 314,000 as of 2023. It is situated at the confluence of the Columbia, Snake, and Yakima rivers, and is known for its strong economy, outdoor recreation, and wine production, with over 100 wineries in 50-mile radius. Okay. Another well-known Tri-Cities region is in Northwest Tennessee, comprising the cities of Bristol, Johnson City, and Kingsport, located in southern Appalachians near the Virginia and North Carolina borders. This area is served by the Tri-Cities Regional Airport. Okay. Michigan, okay. Alameda County, California, in towns of Fremont, Newark, and Union City. Okay. So, they don't usually have distinct names then. I'm making a game, and there's going to be a Tri-Village area. So I was wondering if I should give it a specific name or just refer to it as such. Okay, based on the aggregated data from Reddit threads, X posts, and web sources focused on streaming milestones, the average time for persistent streamers to reach moderate success, defined as 500 plus subscribers, followers, and averaging 500 total views per stream, is approximately 9 to 12 months. This estimate is conditional on those who stick it out and achieve the milestone, including early quitters. The factors in high variability, some reach it in 2 to 4 months, viral moments, consistent networking, okay, while others 18 to 24 due to slower organic growth and saturated niches like gaming. I'd be on the 18 to 24 idea. That's like 2 years, or it's like, yeah, about 2 years, year and a half and 2 years. Data on 500 news views per stream. This new threshold around the same time as 500 followers if they maintain 3 to 5 streams per week and engage viewers effectively. Key supporting trends, fast cases, common among streamers, highlight posts on social media, collaborate, go viral, blah blah, average cases, high rate, the most frequent range in anecdotes, especially for gaming live content. 7 months on YouTube, 6 months on Twitch, to 500 followers. Seeing consistent schedules or lowest visibility niches. 18 months on YouTube with occasional live streams. 3 years on Twitch. Views growth often lags slightly behind followers. Catches up with the regular streaming. Starts to note that 500 followers averaging 500 total views per stream is achievable if 10 to 20% of followers tune in or discover it via algorithms. Success depends heavily on consistency, 3+ streams per week, content quality, external promotion. Without these, many never reach it. Like, I've been doing this since November 2024, and I have yet to see much growth, almost no growth, although there's a handful of new subscribers. So, right now I'm considering whether I should stop stop streaming development of my game. Partly because it's probably pretty boring. But I also don't want to quit if growth is right around the corner, so to speak. Okay. Been doing your game development since about 11 months with minimal growth. Your situation aligns with the challenging early phase many streamers face. The data suggests you're close to the average 9 to 12 month mark where persistent streamers often hit moderate success. But your lack of traction indicates specific hurdles. Since you're worried about your streams being boring but don't want to quit if growth is near, let's break this down with actionable insights based on your context and broader streaming trends. Why growth is so slow? Streaming game development, especially in early stages, can struggle to attract viewers due to niche audience. Development streams appeal to a smaller crowd, obviously, compared to gaming or entertainment. Your prior interest in balancing technical and entertaining content suggests you're aware of this. Yeah, and I don't really know how to make it entertaining. I guess that's kind of the problem there. Lack of immediate engagement, as you've noted, story development without visuals and audio can feel slow, reducing viewer retention. Reddit threads and X posts highlight that development streams often need dynamic elements to viewers, algorithmic challenges. YouTube's algorithm favors consistent uploads, viewer interaction, and shareable content. If your streams lack viral moments or external promotion, TikTok, Twitter clips, growth stalls. Data shows 90% of YouTube channels never reach 10,000 subscribers, often due to insufficient off-platform traction. I mean, that could be true. I'm not really promoting my thing outside other than posting the links to this couple of places, right? But I don't really have that many followers in X anyways to kind of warrant anything from there, really. Okay. Competition. You're competing with established streamers, more visually engaging content. It's like Corey note, the new streamers often see less than 10 viewers for months without strategic pivots. Is growth right around the corner? Interesting. Shoot, it's already 1 o'clock, so I guess it's about time for me to quit this part anyways. So the boring part's done, and then I'll be back in an hour to work on the layout tool, which seems to be a little bit more engaging, but also partly because people I think are a little bit more available in the later part of the day when I start streaming part 2. So I will see you in an hour. Thank you for watching part 1. Thank you for watching part 1.